Make you copies, so Jeannie or Bobby or, okay, so that's some additional wording on.
Yes, sir. And then mine.
I can email it to you.
Patrick McGowan, Southern Village resident. I realize I'm a little late to this party, but I do have to express that I'm very unclear now on the intent of phase one. As the Compass Committee's been meeting, I've read and reread the two-page process published by the town of Chapel Hill on the development agreement phases. And I understood phase one to be a recommendation on whether the development agreement is beneficial to the town, with outcomes of phase one being approve, change, or reject the plan, and a decision of whether to proceed. It's as if from the discussion we presuppose the answer is yes, the plan should continue, and yes, we should proceed. And I'm confused why there isn't discussion on those topics rather than acting as a design committee establishing design principles. I'm hearing statements like, we want a big box, and we will figure that out in phase two. I'm concerned because that is not the process and the phases as documented by the town. So what I think is missing in this report, and as a business owner and former executive at companies, the executive summary and the intro should have a very clear statement on the recommendation of the plan, either approve, must change, or reject, and a clear statement on whether you recommend proceeding to phase two. Right? Because if they're not there, then it's implied, and we are accepting the plan unchanged, and we are implying that you proceed. Okay?
I think you're absolutely right.
I mean, I sat here the whole time and I read and reread and reread and reread. And, I didn't jump in because it's not my place, but we were spending a lot of time on it. And I do have comments on the rest of it, the information changes I would make. The models are great. There should be more models so it's all consumable to the public. But it's almost as it's an irrelevant discussion because the focus should be on what is the firm recommendation as outlined in the process. Okay, thank you.
Make a comment. There was discussion at the writing committee. It's where it says ... Ultimately, there's a line that says, we recommend you move to phase two. That has to happen. I think that's where we're headed. But that needs to be brought before this group to put a hands up on.
Or we move to phase two provided.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Or we don't move to phase two.
We can't close the blue book and turn this in until we have a recommendation on moving to phase two or not moving to phase two.
And I think I would say heed the advice of the negotiation theorists. It's music to my ears. If you do not pay attention to those details, you will be at a distinct disadvantage. And what I think I heard, I processed it was, without that information, the recommendation has to be do not proceed. Thou shalt not proceed. And there's even, I reread the phases in phase one, there's supposed to be something about getting that information that we keep hearing we need. That's in there. So
there's a technical task report. It should be available online. So that would be the technical committee. So we're in a non-technical committee. We're sort of
But
like.
they didn't give us the data. They didn't give us any.
Yeah,
So you're on council. It does concern me that you've repeatedly said, we will figure that out in phase two. So
Because we don't have.
But that's saying we will go to phase two.
So
We have yet to have any member of this committee suggest we not go to phase two. If they keep it to themselves, they gotta start saying.
and our technical committee has not.
Well, this is not the time for debate
I
at
just
this
can't
point,
believe we would write this whole document and then
Ladies and
choose to
gentlemen.
say, don't go to phase two.
Not the time for a debate. Monty, you had something to say.
Mine, actually, he said it better than I did. My first one was, let's learn from our mistakes in the past. To learn from this 2020 that if you're not specific, then it leads to problems. If you look at what this individual developer has done to Pittsburgh by the creative interpretation of what multifamily use is and stuff, if you don't be specific, and it shall be, then you won't get what you want. So be specific. And my specific recommendation is it would be inappropriate without the data to actually discuss it before going to a yes or no. So I think it's inappropriate for someone to say, we're assuming we're going on with this without all of these reports. The 15501 corridor study is being done and you're paying for it. Why would you not wait for the most important data that you have on the economic analysis and the traffic to actually have a discussion of how big? So to me, the answer is, and your primary goal is exactly what you said. Your only goal of this is to say, should this go on or not? And at this point, my specific recommendation has to be, you would not be doing your fiduciary responsibility if you said yes. And there are people in this room who would say right now, don't do it on your committee. So doing all of this report, when you said, why would we do all this report? Because all this report helps you make that decision, should you go on or yet? I think the answer will be eventually, not yet.
Well, Mark, so it's possible, I'd never even contemplated that we would recommend they not proceed.
It's
And
because
then,
you have a
and then say,
predisposition and a
but
conflict.
if you disregard our recommendation, please use this in your negotiation. That's what we would say. We recommend you do not proceed, but if you go without us, use this document, please. If we say don't proceed, why would we even?
You know, Aaron, but it's not that simple. Roger's not then walking away from Obie Creek. He's already said, so, and you have to listen carefully. He's always honest, and you got to listen carefully. You know this. He said the exit strategy for my owners is that they have to have more density than they have now. Did that mean 1.6 million? Probably not. He just said more. If you listen to all the things, he's not going away. But the question we haven't answered is, we've got a concept plan and no traffic data, but everything we've done says that this proposal will absolutely overwhelm the area. So why would we not ask to apply the data
We need
and
big
redo a
time
concept?
on the 3rd to discuss whether we would recommend to proceed.
I think
Well,
actually.
yeah, we do.
All right.
What's that?
Why that? We should have done that. Why?
We got everyone thinking about it. I think the third's agenda needs to be focused. I mean,
On what our recommendation is at this point. And we can throw out, the drafting a committee can deal with this, or we can just deal with it. It strikes me that the answer is not necessarily a yes or no. That the answer might be something in between a yes provided, a yes with additional information, a maybe. I mean, that's something for the committee to decide, and I'm not going to dictate that to you, but these are
Forgive me for
possibilities.
We're writing a
Aaron,
roadblock
I
on
think that
the trip to take.
another way to read this, and the way that I read it as I was development that happens at this site should adhere to this principle, to these types of principles, not necessarily if it's in a development agreement or Obie Creek. And
we
when
recommend you don't
I
take it.
was reading this, there were a couple of times when it said the negotiation or and I was making edits that I was going to send to say if negotiation or any negotiation, because there was some language in here that did imply necessarily that we were going to it, and I thought that it was a little.
Well, that will need to, if we say no, we'll change a bunch of language. But for me, I just have it right. This is a map to a trip we may recommend they not take. Right?
No,
this is a list of the issues that are related to.
If you take this
to the
vacation, we want you
development.
to do this, but we're going to recommend don't.
No, I
No.
don't see it as that. It really is a list of issues, which is what we have been focusing on all along.
But we recommend you don't engage in a.
No, we recommend that the current concept plan is not what moves into phase 2. That you're not ready
We
because the
could
current
recommend you
concept.
toss the concept plan, but move into phase 2.
Well,
And what's the
Can I
economic?
suggest to the committee that the time is up? I'm sorry, time is up.